Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because at 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you.
Ketheron Academy was abuzz with activity. Students filled the grand atrium, their voices blending into a cacophony of languages and tones as they waited for their professor. The domed ceiling reflected shimmering holograms of planets, constellations, and intergalactic trade routes. Among the vibrant crowd, Ktharn stood apart, his antennae twitching in nervous anticipation. The announcement of the trip to Earth had been met with shock and excitement. A Deathworld, even a mild one like Earth, was an experience most students would never have. Deathworlds were typically avoided for a reason. Ktharn had skimmed his textbook earlier that day, his multifaceted eyes scanning through the entry. Earth, Class 4 Deathworld. Notable for its high biodiversity, extreme environmental conditions, and resilient indigenous species. Caution advised. His mandibles clicked together as he reread the phrase extreme environmental conditions. Why would any intelligent species choose to live in such a place? Professor Trinlek arrived, her three eyes scanning the group as she floated gracefully on her anti-gravity platform. Her tentacles coiled and uncoiled rhythmically as she addressed the class. "Students," she began, her voice amplified and melodious, "today we embark on a journey to a unique world. Earth is unlike any other planet you've studied. It is a place where the laws of nature play out with ruthless efficiency and where the inhabitants have adapted to survive the impossible. You are about to witness firsthand why Earth is called a death world." Several students exchanged uneasy glances. Ktharn raised an antenna. "Professor, is it true that humans live there voluntarily? Even knowing how dangerous it is?" Trinlek's tentacles rippled in amusement. "Ah, Ktharn, humans do not merely live there. They thrive. But you will see for yourselves soon enough. Let us board the transport." The journey to Earth was uneventful, the sleek interstellar vessel gliding smoothly through hyperspace. The students, mostly from advanced, peaceful worlds, were used to pristine habitats and controlled environments. Ktharn overheard a crystalline Kaltorian complaining about the unpredictability of the field trip. "I don't understand why they allow humans into the Federation at all," the Kaltorian muttered, their body vibrating with discontent. "They're reckless." Ktharn felt a pang of unease. What kind of species could endure a planet classified as a death world and earn a place in the Federation? As the ship exited hyperspace, Earth came into view. Its swirling blue and green surface was beautiful, but the students knew better than to trust appearances. The landing zone was a dense forest in a temperate region. As the ship's hatch opened, a flood of sensory input assaulted the students. The air was thick with oxygen, a level far higher than most were used to. The ground was dense and firm, gravity slightly stronger than galactic standard. And the noise, chirping, rustling, distant growls, was overwhelming. "Stay close to your assigned groups," Trinlek instructed. "Remember, this is a controlled environment, but Earth is unpredictable. Observe, but do not touch. And for the sake of your survival, do not provoke the wildlife." The students filed out cautiously, their protective suits humming softly as they filtered Earth's dense air. Ktharn's antennae twitched with anxiety as he stepped onto the planet's surface. The forest around them was alive, literally. Every inch seemed to writhe with movement. "What is that noise?" a Selkirian asked, her voice high-pitched and nervous. Her webbed hands pointed toward the source of a loud buzzing. "Bees," Trinlek answered. "Insectoids responsible for pollination, a crucial ecological process. They are harmless unless threatened. Do not disturb them." Ktharn looked up at the towering trees, their branches swaying in the breeze. "The flora here is so aggressive," he observed. "Everything has thorns, vines, or defenses." "Precisely," Trinlek said, her tentacles gesturing toward a cluster of plants with serrated leaves. "On Earth, competition is relentless. Plants must defend themselves from herbivores, and herbivores must survive predators. This constant struggle for survival has shaped Earth's ecosystem and its inhabitants." As they walked deeper into the forest, the students' initial curiosity turned to discomfort. The sheer abundance of life was overwhelming. Every shadow seemed to hide a predator, every rustle of leaves a potential threat. Ktharn fell into step beside the professor. "How do humans live here?" he asked. "Why not relocate to a safer world?" "Humans are an anomaly," Trinlek replied. "They have endured ice ages, predators, plagues, and wars. They adapt to challenges that would destroy other species. Earth has shaped them into something remarkable. Remarkable. Ktharn repeated, unconvinced. Or reckless. The professor's tentacles rippled. Both. As they approached a clearing, the sound of machinery and human voices reached their ears. The students emerged to find a small human settlement, modest wooden structures surrounded by fields of crops. A group of humans stood waiting, their postures relaxed but alert. One of them stepped forward, a burly farmer with calloused hands and a kind smile. "Welcome to Earth," he said, his voice steady. "Don't worry, the perimeter's secure. You're safe here." Ktharn studied him, noting the lack of natural defenses. No claws, no armor, no venom. The human seemed utterly ordinary. "What makes Earth a death world?" Ktharn asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. The farmer chuckled. "You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, it's not the big things you should fear. It's the little ones you don't see coming." Ktharn's antennae twitched uneasily as he followed the group deeper into the settlement. He couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's true danger wasn't in its predators or its climate, but in the unpredictable species that called it home. The settlement buzzed with activity. Humans moved about their daily tasks, tending to crops, repairing equipment, and chatting in their strange, lilting language. The alien students watched from the edges, their discomfort palpable as they observed the beings who thrived in a place so hostile. Ktharn's antennae twitched as he noted the simplicity of the structures around him. The settlement's buildings were made of wood and stone, reinforced by metal in some places. It was a stark contrast to the high-tech habitats of the Interstellar Federation. "Primitive," muttered a crystalline Kaltorian. "Survivors," corrected Professor Trinlech. "Human structures reflect their environment. They are not built to last millennia like ours. They are built to endure the moment." A group of humans approached, led by the farmer who had greeted them. He introduced himself as Jacob, and his casual demeanor was a stark contrast to the cautious, almost paranoid stance of the students. "So," Jacob began, rubbing his hands together, "what brings a bunch of Federation students to our corner of the galaxy? We don't get many visitors. Deathworld classification and all. We are here to observe your environment and its challenges," Trinlech replied. "Our students wish to understand how humans have adapted to life on such a volatile planet." Jacob grinned. "Oh, you'll get your fill of volatility, all right. Earth doesn't like to sit still for too long." The students followed Jacob as he led them through the settlement and into the surrounding forest. He spoke casually, pointing out various features of the landscape. "This here's the North Field," Jacob explained, gesturing to a sprawling patch of farmland. "We rotate crops to keep the soil healthy. Keeps pests from settling in too long." Ktharn's mandibles clicked nervously. "Pests? You mean there are hostile organisms even here?" Jacob laughed. "Oh sure. Earth's full of critters that'll bite, sting, or eat your crops if you let 'em. We've got defenses though. Keeps the worst of 'em out." As if on cue, a loud rustling came from a nearby thicket. The group froze as a wild boar burst from the underbrush, its tusks gleaming in the sunlight. The alien students recoiled, some activating their personal shields, but Jacob remained unfazed. "Easy now," Jacob said, his voice calm but firm. He raised his arms, making himself appear larger, and the boar hesitated. With a grunt, it turned and disappeared back into the forest. How did you do that?" Ktharn stammered. Jacob shrugged. "Animals like that don't want to fight unless they think they can win. Stand your ground, show 'em you're not easy prey, and they'll usually back off." The students exchanged uneasy glances. To them, the idea of facing a predator without advanced weapons or armor was unthinkable. As the tour continued, the group came upon a riverbank where humans were fishing. The students watched as they cast lines into the water, pulling out shimmering fish with practiced ease. "Are the aquatic creatures hostile too?" asked a Selkirian student, her webbed fingers fidgeting. "Depends on the species," Jacob replied. "Fish like these are harmless. But down south, you've got gators, piranhas, and the occasional river snake. Gotta be careful where you step." The Selkirian shuddered, taking an instinctive step back from the water. Ktharn couldn't hold back his curiosity any longer. "Why stay here?" he asked. "Why not leave Earth for a safer world? Surely the Federation has offered relocation." Jacob's expression grew serious. "Plenty of humans have left Earth. Some settled on Federation worlds, others started colonies. But this is our home. Earth's dangerous, sure, but it's also alive in a way no other planet is. It's a challenge, but it's our challenge. Later that day, as the students observed a tranquil meadow, disaster struck. A Selkirian student, fascinated by a buzzing sound, approached a tree hosting a massive hive of bees. Before Trinlek could stop her, the student reached out to touch the hive. The bees erupted in a swarm, their collective hum turning into an angry roar. The Selkirian screamed as the bees targeted her, stingers piercing the protective suit. "Retreat!" Trinlek shouted, her voice urgent. The students fled in panic, but the bees followed, relentless in their pursuit. Ktharn stumbled, his shield flickering as the swarm surrounded him. Just as he thought it was over, Jacob appeared, holding a smoking device that emitted a pungent smell. "Hold still!" Jacob barked, waving the device to disperse the bees. The swarm hesitated, then retreated, leaving the group shaken but unharmed. As the Selkirian student was tended to, Ktharn approached Jacob, his antennae quivering. "Why didn't they stop when we ran?" Jacob gave him a grim smile. "On Earth, running makes you prey. Bees protect their hive, and they'll die to defend it. Everything here fights for survival, no matter how small it is. That's what makes Earth a death world." Ktharn felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. For the first time, he understood that the true danger of Earth wasn't in its predators or environment. It was in the relentless, unyielding nature of its life. And humans, he realized, weren't exceptions to this rule, they were its ultimate embodiment. The group huddled in the settlement's central hall, the Selkirian student recovering under the care of human medics. The atmosphere was tense, the students shaken by their first real encounter with Earth's relentless nature. Professor Trinlek floated to the center of the room, her tentacles curling in a gesture of calming authority. "You have now witnessed the essence of Earth," she said. "Here, even the smallest creatures can present the greatest dangers. But this is only the beginning of what you must understand." Before she could continue, a loud alarm blared through the settlement. Humans scrambled into action, grabbing weapons and rushing to defensive positions. Jacob appeared in the hall, his usual relaxed demeanor replaced with urgency. "We've got a situation," he said. "Something stirred up a pack of direwolves. They're headed this way." "Direwolves?" Ktharn asked, his antennae twitching. Jacob nodded grimly. "Think wolves, but bigger, meaner and hungrier. Stay inside, and don't open the doors for anyone but me." The humans moved with practiced efficiency, forming a perimeter around the settlement. From the windows, the students watched the forest beyond the fields. The sun had begun to set, casting long shadows across the ground. The distant howls of the direwolves sent chills through the air. "What are they going to do against creatures like that?" whispered a Kaltorian student. "They don't even have proper energy shields." "They don't need shields," Trinlek replied. "Humans have their own methods of survival." The first direwolf appeared at the edge of the forest, its massive frame illuminated by the fading sunlight. Its fur was dark and matted, its eyes glowing faintly as it sniffed the air. More followed, their numbers growing into a pack of at least 20. The humans didn't wait for them to attack. Jacob gave a sharp whistle, and a volley of gunfire erupted from the perimeter. The students flinched at the deafening sound, but the humans remained focused, their aim precise. The direwolves were undeterred. They charged forward, their speed shocking for creatures of their size. The first wave was cut down by the gunfire, but the second wave reached the perimeter. A human swung a long spear, impaling one of the beasts as it leapt toward him. Ktharn watched in horrified awe. The humans fought with a mixture of primal ferocity and calculated strategy, adapting to each new threat as it emerged. "They're not just defending themselves," Ktharn murmured. "They're fighting as if they belong here." The battle raged for what felt like hours, though it was only minutes. The humans managed to repel the pack, but not without casualties. A few were injured, their wounds quickly treated by their comrades. Jacob returned to the hall, blood smeared on his clothes but his expression calm. "It's over for now," he said. "You're all safe." Ktharn approached him, his antennae lowered in respect. "How did you manage that? Most species would have been overwhelmed by creatures like those." Jacob chuckled, shaking his head. "You don't survive on Earth by being passive. Everything here wants to kill you, one way or another. You learn to fight back or you don't last long. But why not leave?" Ktharn pressed. "Why not find a safer place to live?" Jacob's expression softened. Because this is home. Earth isn't just a planet, it's part of who we are. Every challenge, every danger, it shaped us into what we are today. Leaving would be like running away from ourselves. That night, the students sat in silence, reflecting on what they had witnessed. They don't just endure, Ktharn said finally. They thrive. They've learned to live with the danger, even to use it to their advantage. Exactly, Trinlek said. Humans are not the most physically powerful species, nor the most technologically advanced. But they are uniquely resilient. Earth has forged them into survivors, capable of facing threats that would destroy others. Ktharn gazed out the window at the moonlit forest, the sounds of the night creatures a constant reminder of the planet's hostility. For the first time, he began to understand why Earth was called a Deathworld, and why its inhabitants were so uniquely terrifying. It wasn't the planet that made humans dangerous. It was the fact that they had conquered it, not with brute strength, but with an unyielding will to survive. The next morning, the settlement was eerily quiet. The humans were already repairing their defenses, clearing debris, and tending to the injured. For them, it seemed, the previous night's battle was just another day on Earth. The alien students, however, were shaken. Most had spent the night replaying the events in their minds, the relentless direwolves, the fearless humans, and the sheer violence of the planet itself. Ktharn stood at the edge of the settlement, his antennae twitching as he watched a group of humans dismantling the remains of a broken fence. Despite their injuries and the exhaustion evident on their faces, they joked and laughed as they worked. How can they act so normal after what happened? Ktharn muttered. Because this is normal, said Jacob, approaching him with a cup of steaming liquid. Coffee. Ktharn eyed the cup suspiciously. What is it? Something to help you wake up. Try it, Jacob said, his grin disarming. Ktharn hesitated before taking a cautious sip. The bitter taste made him recoil, but the warmth was oddly soothing. Humans are strange, he admitted. Jacob chuckled. You're not the first to say that. Later that day, Professor Trinlek led the students on one final excursion. This time, they ventured beyond the settlement into the wilderness. The humans had provided them with guides, seasoned hunters who knew the land and its dangers. As they walked, Ktharn couldn't shake his growing respect for the humans. Their movements were deliberate, their senses attuned to every rustle of leaves and every distant call. At one point, the group stopped near a river. A guide knelt by the water, examining tracks in the mud. Mountain lion, he said simply. The students exchanged nervous glances. Don't worry, the guide continued, standing up. It's long gone. They don't stick around when humans are near. Most predators here learn pretty quickly to avoid us. Ktharn tilted his head. Even predators fear you. Not fear exactly, the guide explained. But they understand the risk. Humans aren't the strongest or the fastest, but we fight back. And we're clever. Predators that don't figure that out don't last long. The students fell silent, the weight of the guide's words sinking in. The climax of their trip came when they reached a high plateau overlooking a vast, untamed landscape. Rolling hills, dense forests, and jagged mountains stretched as far as the eye could see. The students marveled at the beauty of it, but Ktharn felt a chill run through him. This is Earth, Trinlek said, her voice filled with reverence. A planet of breathtaking beauty and unmatched danger. Every creature here has been shaped by its challenges, none more so than the humans. Ktharn stepped forward. But why stay? Surely they could build safer environments, create controlled habitats like the rest of us. A voice from behind answered him. It was Jacob, his tone steady and firm. Because that's not how we're wired. Humans don't just survive, we adapt. We don't run from challenges, we face them. Earth isn't just where we live. It's who we are. Ktharn stared at the human, trying to grasp the depth of his words. But, how do you endure it? The constant danger, the uncertainty. Jacob grinned. We don't endure it. We thrive in it. Every storm, every predator, every catastrophe, it makes us stronger. That's why we're still here. As the students returned to the settlement, Ktharn's mind raced with what he had learned. Humans weren't exceptional because they were the strongest or the smartest. They were exceptional because they endured the impossible and came out stronger for it. At the farewell gathering that evening, Ktharn approached Jacob one last time. Thank you, he said, his voice sincere. I don't think I'll ever see the galaxy the same way again. Jacob clapped him on the back, his grin as warm as ever. That's the thing about Earth. It leaves an impression. As the students boarded their transport ship and left the blue-green world behind, Ktharn looked out the window, watching the planet shrink into the void. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a crucible, a place where only the strongest, most adaptable beings could survive. And humans weren't just its inhabitants, they were its masters. Ktharn leaned back in his seat, his mind swirling with thoughts. For all the galaxy's technological wonders and peaceful utopias, nothing compared to the raw, unyielding spirit of humanity.